This is a Cincy fan talking with LP. You can catch me on Twitter. That's a Cincy fan talking. You say it like it sounds, just leave off the G. If you have ideas for the show, you can reach me at Cincy_fan talk at yahoo.com. If you have any suggestions for the show, make sure you leave them there. Who knows, you might find yourself as part of the show. Any feedback would be definitely appreciated. And also, make sure you hit the Linktree page that's on my Twitter. Make sure you click on that. You can find all the different ways to contact me there. Enjoy the show. What's up? What's going on, y'all? What's up, everybody? This is a Cincy fan talking with LP. And of course, this is LP. Welcome to the pod, y'all. Appreciate y'all coming back. Um, I'm gonna keep it real with y'all, fam. Like I was super excited a few days ago. Like I was super hyped. My Bengals, they made it to the Super Bowl, and I'm extra geeked up about that. I really am. But this news dropped about Brian Flores getting discriminated against, and I don't know, man. It's let me make sure I say this right because y'all on the pod, y'all know how I do. It's a sports pod, but at the same time, I talk about real life stuff. I talk about the everyday that goes on, and what we're witnessing is literally what minorities go through in America. That's really what this is. We we love the NFL, but we hate what the NFL does. We hate the power structure of it. That's basic. If I was describing America, it would be the exact same thing. And people try to, paint folks like, if we don't love our country, get out or whatever. And it's like, dude, I live here. What are you talking about? I'm from America. I mean, we're not telling you stuff like that. Like your ancestors weren't from here either. So that's how we feel about the NFL. You have this outrageously wonderful moment that had me doing cartwheels on Sunday. And then a couple days later, this bomb drops, and both things are true. The NFL is absolutely wonderful, and the NFL does horrible things, and you would be hard pressed to find somebody that saw the news break about Brian Flores and as a black person go like, well, it's probably not true. Like, come on. The Rooney Rule was instituted to give minorities an equal shot at getting interviews and possibly getting employment in the NFL. It's not like they're saying, hey, you have to hire black people. It's more like, hey, give these people a chance, give these minorities a chance. And when you see them, you might like them. You're not giving them a fair shake to get interviewed. So if you put them in the interview room and you see what they're about, you may possibly like this person more than the person you had already assigned the job to. And the horrible part about it is since the Rooney Rule has been instituted, there are less coaches, there are less minority coaches in the NFL now than there were when they first started, when the Rooney Rule first started. And it's it's really crazy. I mean, to me, as a black man, to read the stuff that Brian Flores is putting out there and to go like, I've been in situations where I walk into an interview, and as soon as I walk into the building, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to get this gig because nobody looks like me up in the place. And even if the students are all, minorities, none of the staff is. So I'm looking and I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting this job. But do I leave? No. Because if I leave the interview, then they're going to look like, oh, well, he didn't even want to interview. So why hire anybody that looks like him when they probably don't show up? It's like we're a barometer for our entire race. So I saw people putting out there online, on the internet. Well, if he knew he wasn't going to get the interview, if it was already predetermined for other people, why even show up? You got to show up. I mean, even if it's one of those situations where it's not going to work out, you're setting the tone for the people after you. You go in the interview, you do your thing, you do absolutely great. Okay, they don't hire you, but that seed is planted now. Like, hey, he did pretty good. Maybe somebody else that doesn't necessarily look like us can run our franchise. I mean, it's really a horrible feeling reading the allegations and going like, damn, I remember going through something like that. And talk to a minority, talk to a black person, talk to an Asian person, talk to a woman. And they'll probably tell you an instance where they were in a situation where they were like, yeah, this probably isn't going to work out. They don't even look like they care about what I'm talking about. But you don't get up and leave. And one of the really messed up things about this is that the NFL trumpets this whole, we're about diversity, the end racism decals on the helmets. It takes all of us on both end zones and stuff like that. And you're looking at a league that's about 70% African American, but all of the owners don't look like the players. And that's where change starts. I see a lot of people, on Twitter talking, hey, all of these coaches need to stand up and they need to talk about what's going on. And that's how change is going to happen. No, that starts the conversation. But we don't have the power to create that change. The players could stop playing. And I see a lot of people saying that, well, why don't the players just go ahead and stand up and just stop playing? You're talking about men that their livelihood is doing this. It's playing football. They don't get paid when they don't play football. And I think that's a real one of those misnomers. People really think that the players get paid all year. No, they get paid when they play. So that whole off season and stuff like that, they're not playing. They're not getting paid. So if they decide to say, hey, we're not playing until we see change, they're not getting paid. And it's really difficult to be in a position to tell other people what to do when it affects them. But there's a point made here. The real change comes from changing the minds of people in power. The whole thing with Rosa Parks stood up and sat down and decided not to stand up. That's not where change happened. Everybody didn't decide, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to change everything because of what she did. It didn't work that way. They had to do a bus boycott. And, black folks didn't ride the bus down there for an entire year. Change started because the people that ran that stuff decided, hey, we're losing money. We can't go out like this. So we got to make some changes in order to keep stuff flowing and put some money in our pocket. In order for change to happen in the NFL, it's going to take the owners checking the owners, because you're dealing with 31 owners who all look exactly the same. Representation isn't there. So you can't really expect people to go like, oh, wow, all of a sudden we're going to go. No, it's not going to work that way. What really needs to happen is owners need to call other owners out on that BS. So when they see stuff like that happening in Miami or anywhere else, you have owners that go like, look, you can hire who you want to hire because it's your team. We respect that. But at the same time, you got to give everybody a fair shake. It is really unfair to say, hey, I'm picking this person. I'll go ahead and interview other folks, but this is the person I want. And what's weird is I seen this aligned to what Biden said when he said that I'm gonna make sure I pick a black woman. And people were kind of like up in arms about that. Like, whoa, 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 you can't do that. Calm down. You're talking about a situation where you have 115 different Supreme Court appointees, and 108 of them have been white men. Chill out. It's not the same thing. It is not. Well, it's reverse discrimination. How is it reverse discrimination when you don't see 108 black men or black women being picked? It's not discrimination. It's completely the same thing. What we're trying to do is kind of even out that playing field. But we'll get into that a little bit later. It's You're talking to somebody who basically decided to cut the cord on all NFL things in my house last year. I was that fed up. I ditched the NFL red zone package. I'm like, I'm only watching a Bengals game, and other than that, that's it. I'm not buying merchandise. I'm not doing any of that because I was that fed up with the NFL. I was just so tired of the hypocrisy. I'm like, you say one thing and you do another. You say you care about racism, you care about ending, the things that are happening in the black community. Yet Colin Kaepernick's not playing, and he's blackballed about everybody in the NFL, by all of the owners. And slowly but surely, I get sucked back in. My Bengals start doing a thing this year, and slowly but surely, I start following NFL stuff a whole lot more. Got the red zone package back, like I'm ready to roll. And then I got like this jarring face punch yesterday reading about Brian Flores, and I'm like, this is what I've been pissed off about for so long. And it's a love hate relationship. It's the same love hate relationship a lot of black people have with America. It's it's that same thing. On one hand, the NFL is one of the few places where minorities can pretty much blow up generational poverty and lift themselves up and make a great lane for themselves, their families, and all of the people behind them, grandchildren, all of that stuff. Because what they're doing is they're creating wealth systems. And if you work your money right, you can do great things for the people around you. The NFL provides that. There are very few places for black people that provide that step up from poverty to generational wealth like that. It just doesn't happen for most of us. I mean, when Biggie said you either slang crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot, like that was a witty little line, but he's not playing. Most black people feel like they only have those avenues. So it doesn't surprise me that the NFL is 70% black because a lot of black people, especially black males, get pushed towards sports and stuff like that. I mean, that's what happens. It's what makes me continue to watch it because I know that they're not only doing entertainment, but they're providing lanes for themselves and their families. That's on one hand for the NFL. But on the other hand, the further you climb up in the NFL system, the more you start to realize that it seems like they don't really want, when I say them, I mean owners and stuff like that. They don't really want minorities past a certain level. Like, we're okay to perform, but when it comes to making big decisions, we're not there. And if you don't believe that, just kind of take a look at the evolution of the black quarterback. Look at how many black quarterbacks were around, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. I mean, in my childhood, there were so few that we could count them on one hand. Warren Moon, Randall Cunningham. I mean, Doug Williams did his thing for like a short period. We had Jeff Blake here who was doing his thing for a short period. But there were very few black quarterbacks. Always black running backs, always black wide receivers and things like that. But the people calling the shots, the head of the beast, the QB, that was a white position for a very long time. And just now, we're starting to kind of kick down that door. and you see a lot of black quarterbacks. I mean, the knock on it was we weren't smart enough to do that. And what's interesting to me is that that exact same parallel seems to go up as you talk about, I don't know, CEOs, owners, things like that. And I mean, to even own a team, you got to be paid. I mean, it's not like you can say, "Man, I'm going to own this team." You got to have a little bit of dough about you. Usually, that thing is like passed down from generation to generation. But for us, for Black people, this is stuff that we notice, and we notice it around us. We notice it in our jobs. We notice it in our careers. We notice it as we go to different neighborhoods. Some places they just don't look like us. The surroundings are completely different, and it's just frustrating to me because what he's saying is something where it's so hard to prove, but it's happening. And people can hide behind things like, oh, well, he's probably bitter. Flores just wasn't the right person for the job and he's taking it out on other people. Why doesn't he just interview at other places? Why does he have to sue? Think about it. Brian Flores got fired after going 10-6 last year and 9-8 this year. This was the first time that the Dolphins have had back-to-back winning seasons in like the past 15 or 20 years. And then he got fired. Come on, y'all. Use your noodle. Use your brain on this. Like be for real. Think about it. You're coming off of two winning seasons. And it's not like the Dolphins were picked to go to the Super Bowl and they just didn't meet expectations. This year, the Dolphins went on an 8 or 9 game winning streak and almost got themselves in the playoff position. And you can debate who they beat. You can say they weren't really good teams, but the Dolphins weren't seen as a good team. And they ran off like 8 or 9 straight wins. And then he got fired. Something smells right to you? Nah, it really doesn't. And then when he talks about the stuff that he alleges, where he says, he was offered a certain amount of money to tank the season and things like that, it starts to make sense. Of course, this is alleged, so we really don't know what happened. But I mean, it's a really frustrating experience. And then you circle it all back and you see the great football that was played for the last 2 or 3 weeks. You got my Bengals who did extremely awesome and are in the Super Bowl. And a lot of people are going to try to throw this, under the bridge or make it water under the bridge or wherever the water go. They're going to try to basically just kind of shovel it and say, look at this great product we're putting out. And for me, it's like I want to love the NFL. Like I really do. I really want to bask in this whole, my squad finally made the Super Bowl for the first time since I was 9 years old. Like I want to bask in it. But there's a large part of me that's going like, this just ain't right. Like it's really not right. So I'm 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 stuck. I'm really at a crossroads with not with how I feel, because I definitely know how I feel. Like I'm frustrated because once again racism is rearing its ugly head. But for me, it's more like, how can you support something that consistently shows you that they don't care? That's my thing. Like, how can I be out here like go Bengals and who they and all that stuff? Like, it's hard for me to separate that from what the NFL is doing. And it used to be easy for me to separate it. I could just kind of go like, well, the Bengals aren't winning anyway. Who cares? But now it's like, I don't know. It's a frustrating situation because the NFL is the NFL. This isn't new. Like this isn't something that's surprising. It's more like, what next? will change really happen? Will there really be more minority head coaches and things like that? And the the positive part of me, that part that always sees everything half full, I'm like, folks are gonna kind of see this, and you're gonna have people stepping up and saying, we really don't appreciate what's happening, and they're gonna get this thing rolling, and we're gonna start seeing more minorities in the interview rooms, and eventually, prowling down the sidelines. But I wouldn't even call this the jaded part of me. I will call this the realistic part of me. And this isn't the half full or half empty guy. This is the guy that just makes observations. And from what I've observed, there are not enough people willing to call people on their crap. Like, we don't have enough allies that'll say things like, that's not cool. That's not acceptable. That's not who we want to be as a league. And when I say that, I could replace the words NFL and league with America and nation. Like, it really goes the same way, because there are allies. I know tons of people who are willing to support. They're willing to call people out. They're down for the cause, and they're of all colors. But the people in power aren't like that. And until they're willing to do things differently, this is what we get. I mean, with this being Black History Month and everything, it really brings to the forefront something that happened to me when I was in the 5th grade, and it really shaped who I wanted to be and what my career would be. Um, we had a teacher in 5th grade. She was teaching us. It was like social studies and English. It was like one of those things that's put together. And she was a white lady. We called her Mrs. M. And it was November, and she looked at us and she started pulling out all of these lists and things, and she was like, we're going to go ahead and do a project. We're going to do a report. Everybody's going to do a report on a famous Black person. And we're like, first off, it's November. And this is what we're saying. We're saying this verbally. It's November for one. And two, like, I want Martin Luther King. I want Malcolm X. And we're kind of shouting this out. And she's like, this is stuff we need to do now, because this is stuff you need to know, all year. We're not just going to put it to 1 month. And we're like, okay, we don't really care. We're not really listening. We're 5th graders. And we start getting the list, and she's like, you're going to pick one person from this list. Once that person is picked, nobody else can pick them. So we're scanning. We're looking for MLK. We're looking for Malcolm X, or at least George Washington Carver. Somebody easy, somebody that we know. They're not on the list. They're not there. And we combed that list a few times. So somebody speaks up like, hey, where MLK? Where Martin Luther King? And she's like, we're going to do people that you might not know, so you can know about them. So you're going to pick amazing Black people that may not be covered. And she literally said this. She said, they're definitely not covered in our textbook. And we just kind of looked at each other like, well, what the textbook's for? I mean, whatever. So I picked Carter G. Woodson. Like that's what I picked. I picked Carter G. Woodson. And we had to go down to the library. A quick side note for my folks out there that might be a little young. Yeah, this was the time period where you couldn't hop on Google. Ask Jeeves was still some ways off. You had to go down to the library, grab your encyclopedia, or and something, and basically write it down, copy it, and then kind of make it your own, use that information to help you out. So it wasn't like it was super easy. Plus, you wanted a page. 5th grade, a page, you got to write it. That was kind of tough. You couldn't skip lines. I tried to cheat. But basically, I found out that Carter G. Woodson was on the forefront of, celebrating Black people and their accomplishments. And he inspired Black History Week, which inspired Black History Month. I was like, okay, so that's how it happened, huh? And I ended up winning a nice little award for it. the more I learned, the more I was like, okay, I can't leave this out. I can't leave this out. Then I kind of put my own thoughts in. But for Mrs. M to be like, I'm a white face in a room where there's only one other white face and everybody else is black. And for her to be like, look, I need to teach them things that's relevant to them. And if it's not in the textbook, I'll go ahead and do it on my own. Because she didn't stop there. You know, she had us do like skits, and she kind of like really immersed us in the whole thing. And she did it all year instead of just making it February. And being a teacher now, I realized how hard that was for her to do. And I also realized that in our building, there weren't a ton of black faces. There were some, but there weren't a ton. So I'm pretty sure she called hell for what she was doing, because it wasn't the time period where you could kind of freestyle and stuff like that. And I really appreciated it kind of growing up, because it showed me that, you know, allies come in all shapes and sizes and colors. They really do. And for her to step up when she didn't have to, it shows that anybody can help out. Anybody can be that person that says, I'm going to make that change. It might be big, it might be small, but I'm going to start the wheels moving forward for change. And I really wish people would kind of take that lead and do stuff like that, because as we can see from the NFL, that's not happening. It's not really going on. And until it does, until people get in the ears of the owners and say, look, you got to make change or consequences will occur, because there are no consequences for owners doing the stuff that they do. They can hire whoever they want, and it's their team, so nobody's going to check them. And since there's no consequences, no check system, we're going to keep seeing this happen. The stuff that happened to Brian Flores is going to keep happening, and it's pretty much the same way for America. Until those checks and balances come forward, we're going to keep seeing the same injustices. So I would kind of put this charge to anybody listening out there. Just just be that voice for change, man. Like, be that person. If you hear one of your homies saying something just wild or crazy or something like this, just let them know, like, look, like that, we can't talk like that. We can't do that. And if you want that to be you, that's cool. But like, we can't hang. Like, people have to make choices like that, and those small choices, those small changes, that's what fuels movements. So just putting it out there for y'all. We'll probably hit more bingo stuff next week, because I mean, it's definitely cool to talk about it. It hasn't happened in so long, but I just didn't really feel right coming on here like who they and all that stuff, because I don't know. But we'll get into that next week. But hey, you got Cincy fan talking with LP. As always, y'all, life is good. Peace out. If you're not ready for the conversation to end, I'm not either. Make sure to catch me on Twitter. That's the Cincy fan talking. Leave off the G at the end of it, and we can keep the conversation going. Also, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button so you can catch the next episodes. The episodes will drop every Tuesday. If there's a change in that, I'll make sure to let you know. Appreciate the support. As always, life is good.